You join us on day 6 of our tour of Ireland, having spent 2 fantastic nights in Mannix Point campsite near to Valentia Island, one of Ireland's most westerly points. Today we stay in County Kerry and head towards Ballybunion. Unfortunately, as with yesterday, I had more issues with my drift camera, and this time it was the audio that was affected. The first stop of the day, located at one of the most scenic viewpoints along the Ring of Kerry, overlooking Dingle Bay, is the area known as Mountain Stage. On most days, it's possible to see Rossby and Inch Beaches, the Dingle Peninsula and the Blasket Islands. The area is known as Mountain Stage because of the highest station on the railway line that's located nearby. Eventually we reached Dingle, home of the famous fungi the dolphin. By this stage the weather looked like it was getting worse. Big Dan dropped his bike, and I began to have issues with my full beams. However, after stopping to decide what to do next, the sky looked like it was beginning to brighten up, and we decided to head on towards Slea Head. Eventually we arrive at Slea Head, which is a headland in the westernmost part of the Dingle Peninsula in southwest County Kerry. Slea Head is, together with Dunmore Head, the westernmost point of Ireland, and arguably is the most western point of the European mainland. It is a well-known and recognised landmark, and also a very scenic viewpoint, with a dramatic view of the Blasket Islands. After a brief pit stop, we continued on our journey along the circular route called the Slea Head Drive, back towards Dingle. Connor Pass is the highest mountain pass in Ireland, and when you arrive at the top you come across a car park with a magnificent waterfall and views across the Brandon Mountains. After a brief stop for photos, we began the descent down back into the valley, enjoying the spectacular view of Ireland's second highest peak, Brandon Mountain, at 3,127 feet above sea level. Eventually the Wild Atlantic Way joined the sea again, and we continued on our journey north towards Ballybunion. Unfortunately, every campsite we came across, for one reason or another, didn't accept tents, and we were forced to journey on further north to a little town called Ballybunion. Eventually, when we arrived at Ballybunion, luckily for us, we bumped into a friendly local who took us to a local hostel called the Ocean Bar. After a few days camping, it was a welcome relief to finally get a proper bed for the night.